Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Sergia Louise, and we're going live with Mischka today. I'm super excited to have her on as a guest for the LUPIT poll interviews. She is a Melbourne native, a poller who puts out a lot of amazing content, as well as having done many poll competitions. She also does a lot of online training for people who want to follow along and learn just a little bit of what she does. Coolest thing is she comes from an exercise rehabilitation background and actually has a master's in it. She found pole in 2011, and we're going to bring her on now. Mental health, physical health, and her journey in pole dancing from student and master of rehabilitation to pole champion and teacher extraordinaire. How are you, Mischka?
I'm good, thank you. It's early for me, but I'm here.
Yeah, thank you for making the time difference work. I know that you are up early and getting ready to head out to probably a lot of your privates and the group lessons. What's on the agenda for today?
Oh, look, I'm not generally up this early, so I was like, I don't know. There's a whole world of possibilities.
All right, don't worry, I got you. I'm going to take you through step by step. You can just slowly wake up as we go.
I'm really excited to be here. So it's, and I'll get to see a nice bright early morning afterwards. So it's all good.
Wonderful. So tell me a little bit about when you found pole, because at the time you already did have your master's in exercise rehabilitation, correct?
Yes, yeah. So my best friend, she was doing pole, and she was like, "You have to start this. It's really fun." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so busy. There's no time. There's never any time, is there?" But I saw her a couple of years later doing an advanced showcase, and then I was like, "Oh." No, it's pretty cool. So once I'd seen her do the advanced showcase, I was like, I have to start this, and definitely almost quit because my skin was very sensitive. I was like, this is it's too much. This is just too much.
Yes. Ooh, I kind of want to dive deep into that. Where has been your journey about having to develop get over the skin sensitivity? Tell me about that journey in particular, because I don't think a lot of people talk about that. And I think it's really good for pullers of all levels to hear about a journey like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just did not expect the intensity of the skin burn, and I'm a sweaty gal too. I'm very sweaty, so like, she sweats. Um, right now at this point in our pole lives, when your thighs get a bit sweaty, you're like, it's the sweet spot. I'm gripping to everything, but at the time, there was nothing sweet about it. It was horrible. It was painful. We have a thing called kitten kicks, which is just like a basic sit. You rock back, the pole's running all the way up your thighs, and it's very cute, but that's almost what made me quit. I was like, oh, I can't do this. This is too much. This is so much. Because I was very strong. I came from like a triathlon background, so I had these big swimmer's shoulders. I could do an invert no problems, but yeah, my skin was very sad about pole dancing at the start. Yeah, but I'm very grateful.
Like, the kitten kick almost did you in. No, but I think that's huge. Not only with being feeling like you're sweaty, was it also your hands as well?
I did have fairly sweaty hands as well, but like I see some students nowadays that just whether it's hand size or and sweat or one or the other, they really suffer with it. Like I wasn't that bad. She was still sweaty, but because I was quite still strong through my upper body, I could kind of grip through it. I still remember it being a problem. Like when I started competing, nervous sweats and just being a sweaty person in general was quite tricky. I think there was like two falls in my first couple of competition. Nothing serious, but yeah, I remember looking up to the pole and mouthing like the F word and everyone just looking at me and I was like, I just said the F word on stage. Shit. Again, it happens.
Yes. So tell me, what would you describe as your pole style right now? I feel like you have a really unique, dynamic, strong style. I mean, what has that journey been for you?
Yeah, I am, I'm lucky in that I probably didn't quite know what my style was for a very long time. I was at a studio where a lot of sort of static dynamic was quite popular, so I was like, yeah, let's do some of that. And so I probably was a little bit more hard style dynamic static at the start, and then somewhere along the way, probably because of the type of, I mean, I like all types of music, but because of the type of music I like, I just liked, if this makes any sense, dancing like this. um, bit of this, I don't know, anyway, like I just liked flowing, which then led to like flowy tricks, I guess, as well. Yeah, purely because of the music that sort of resonated with me a lot. So I had to, you have to, if you hear a flowy song, you have to flow. It has to match the music. So I started just experimenting with like freestyling because I wasn't very good at it, but I wanted to be. And then fast forward many years later, and I was like, maybe I should do some flowy kind of routines, which once I'd done them, I was like, you're so silly. Why didn't you do that sooner? So I still really love flow and static rotations, but I can still tap into that hard style and you know, do something more dynamic on static, which is really handy to have. And then I also quite like, if I'm doing a competition or a routine, being quite creative with character as well, because I also hit a point of many years ago where I was like, if you don't commit to this character, you will look more silly than if you commit to the character. So it's just been a year, like years and years of experimenting and growing and learning, which, you know, that's what you should all do. Like, keep learning forever, everyone.
Yeah, yeah. That's what makes it. That's what keeps coming back for more and more. It's just continuing to
Yeah.
learn and grow, evolve.
Yeah, and seeing like, and just going back to other tricks that, you know, everyone, no, not everyone, like I know a butterfly, I have known since probably intermediates in 2011 or something, but now maybe I go and do a butterfly and I add a body wave, and there's so much more stuff that you can do if you just get really creative with how you want to move. Like, yeah, I love it. Pole's still really cool, and I love that I'm 14 years in to my journey and I still really love it, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's wonderful. There's so many different like aspects too to like you're saying, like one of my favorite things to do is just scroll back on my Instagram as far as I can go and then be like that.
Yeah,
I want to try that. I did that at once, but I want to try to do that again now, today. Let's see what happens. In the way that my body might do it today, which is very different than it might have done it before, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of the time when I do that too, I'm like, oh, i'm I'm not that bendy anymore.
Yeah.
But find a different way to move into it, or you just like find a different pathway of tricks instead.
Yeah, like it doesn't even end up having to be it. It could be some version of a piece of it, a morsel that grows into some other innovative thing. Like maybe I didn't nail it all the way, but my exit is really cool. My bail turned out to be awesome. What a yeah,
I'll win.
I meant to do that totally. Yes. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Nerdy, wonderful and nerdy. Okay, so tell me now that you've really moved also, you've had your personal pole practice, but you've really moved into a teaching role. And I think, was it also during the pandemic that you really started to offer more and more online ways to train with
Yeah.
you?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It was quite funny prior to the pandemic, and because in Melbourne we had like quite a severe lockdown. Prior to the pandemic, I had some people that were like, "Oh, do you do Skype lessons?" And I was like, "Oh, no, how could you possibly? Like, that's just silly." And then, yeah, I think a few days in, our owner of the studio and manager, they were like, "Yep, we're running classes. Like, this is how you do it," and they sort of showed us how to do it. And since then, it's been so easy. So it's just quite, I always find it quite funny looking back to me being like, oh, no, online, so hard, can't do, sorry. To now, you know, you just press a button and you're online. Mind you, I was panicking to you before this. I was like, I've never joined a live before. How do I do it?
See, now it's going to be like, boom, easy, no prob.
I have Instagram classes coming soon. Yeah, we really started doing onlines, like, well, we had to, there was no other way to work. So that was during the pandemic. And then after the pandemic, my manager was like, why don't you do these like yourself? Because I was still doing it through my studio's Zoom. And I was like, oh, no, people won't join. I have imposter syndrome, by the way, just so you know. I was like, no, people won't want to join. That's just silly. But she was like, no, you should. So I started doing that, and it's been really good. And I do love staying in connection to all these people that joined me either in lockdown or new people that are sort of seeing it for the first time, because I live in the shadow band land. And so
Don't we all?
it's a nice way to stay in connection to the whole world, which is really cool.
Yeah, awesome. So, talk to me about how your worlds converged, especially really coming into this. I know you've been obviously teaching in person for so long, but like coming into the online teaching as well. How your exercise rehabilitation background came in to work with your pole instruction.
Yeah, it is very handy. It is really good. Sometimes I get a no, I don't get sad about it anymore. I was going to say sometimes I get sad because we have a thing called like a HECS debt in Australia, which is just your university fees accumulating. um, so I got out of uni and I worked in like a neurological rehab place for 4 years. And then at that point, I was like, maybe I should try pole full time. Like I came to a point where I was like, I'm pretty good at pole. I guess maybe I should do it full time. But yeah, for a while there, I was still paying off my HECS debt and not working in the field, which really like screwed with my mind for a little bit, because I was like, I should be doing this. I went to university for this. But it's not that it's not useless in pole. Like it's really, really helpful in pole for me to have a little bit of a keener eye to see what some of my students are doing, and to really pick up quite quickly some technique habits that maybe need, just a little tweak. Yeah, like it is still really, really handy, and I still really appreciate having done it. Yeah, but it does assist quite a lot in just picking out little nitty gritty technique things for my students, I think, which helps. And for myself, if I'm ever like niggly or injured, I definitely have a physio, and she's incredible. She helps me when I'm like, oh, really injured, really stuffed up. But for a lot of if I'm like, I'm feeling this kind of way, I feel like if I do exercises, it will help, and generally it does. So it's really great for me to be able to sort of somewhat know what I need from my body. I mean, I do have a physio for that reason. I am an overtrainer, and she'll be like, maybe you just need a rest. Like, oh, I don't know. Sounds silly. She's excellent to keep me reeled in a little bit. um, yeah, but it does help for my students, for myself. I appreciate having done my master's degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about the overtraining. Tell me about the challenge of overtraining for you.
Yeah, I started in triathlon when I was a young wee lass. And just, yeah, if you don't know triathlon, it's swimming, then bike, and then running. And now at this age that I'm at, I'm like, that's the most stupid sport ever. Who would do that?
Run for
um,
fun.
yeah. But I think it just, me being a people pleaser at that age, I mean, probably still this age, let's be real. I wanted to please my coach. I wanted to please my mother. I wanted to do well. And yeah, there's 3 things to train. So it's not like, oh, it's the weekend, you just do a training session. Like you're either riding a 100-kilometer bike ride and then, going for a big run afterwards, or yeah, or nothing. So there was just a lot of opportunity to overtrain. So when I was young, that was the norm. And then when I got into pole, it did instill really good habits. Other than the overtraining, it is still good mental fortitude, I think. I can push myself well in training, and now that I'm older, I know when to stop. I didn't so much when I was younger. And then that led to, quite a bad back injury as well. So that was when I went full-time pole. And I thought in my head that I needed to train even more, because if I'm going full-time pole, I should be really, really good. And yeah, then I had stress fractures in my spine, and it was not a great time. So yes, the overtraining, like if there's anything I can tell my students now, it's like, take 2 rest days at least. Don't be silly. So important to just recuperate your body and regenerate, and even for your mind as well, just to if you want to keep being creative, you need to rest, because otherwise you rock up to training and your brain is like, oh, we're here again. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, well, speaking on that, I mean, what do you, like how do you feel like a lot of what people overlook that connection between the mental health and the physical movement? Like, how do those,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, I know I used to as well. And then I'd beat myself up even more about it. Like, sometimes you have a shit day, you go to pole and you feel so much better, 100%. Like, it's something that can bring you out of a funk, because it's just such a cool, expressive sport. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't work that way. And so what normally connects with you in a certain pathway of movements won't connect, because you're just, your head's too frazzled, there's too much going on in that brain, and you need to cut yourself some slack. Because I remember being even more angry at myself if things didn't work out on the pole, because, well, I had a shit day, so this was the only thing I had that was going to make it better. Which is quite, that's really mean to yourself. Like, sometimes you need to have that mental break, and that's why holidays are so important. I know some students are like, oh, I don't want to go away for a week and a half, like, and not touch a pole. And I'm like, I get it, been there, but go on your damn holiday.
Right.
Don't touch a street pole if you want, that's fine. Take one picture of you doing something on a pole. But it keeps you fresh in the head. It makes you want to come back and have ideas and be passionate about ideas, instead of trying to, like, force a poo idea.
Yeah. Yeah, the walking away sometimes what creates that space for new thoughts and new innovations too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I just speaking of, I just was sick this last week and I was so bummed out because I was on vacation and I was sick and I was thinking to myself, oh man, I haven't done any of my conditioning, I haven't done any of my workouts, this is gonna suck, I'm falling behind. And then I did my first workout just like yesterday after like a week and change, having been too sick to do anything. And I got through the same workout that I had usually done. And I'd always noted like where in the workout I, like hit a wall where I'm like, how much longer is this? And like get angry and frustrated. And I didn't hit the wall at all, and it really made me confused because I was like, well, I've just been a week and change off of conditioning. I've done nothing.
Yeah.
I've been so sick. I'm obviously weak. I probably went, backwards in so many ways, but yet I was able to get to this workout that is usually a major struggle for me. And I actually just kind of whizzed through it and thought, oh, and then even my recovery, even my soreness from that workout, and I'm used to it being a certain way, was tons different. And I just went, well, there you go.
I bet mentally you were fresh, you were excited to be back in the
Yeah.
gym or doing, like, work. Like, it's not something to discount. I know it sounds a little bit like bullshit, but seriously, like, take that break, let yourself be a complete couch potato and not even think about a pole routine, if that's what like, just let yourself rest. It's hard as a pole dancer, because there's always, like, it's not just like, I must be better at pole. It's so specific. It's like, oh, well, I have all these tricks that I need to work on, and then I've got to put on my heels, and I need to smooth out this flow because, oh, my foot was flexed, and blah, blah, blah. Then there's the flexibility side of things, and then there's the characterization if you're competing, and all these things. It never stops. So just let yourself stop and have a rest. It'll be good for you.
Yeah, yeah. It's super, super interesting, super surprising. Um, yeah. So, yeah. And so, in what ways do you believe movement can really kind of affect that mental clarity and overall well-being? I guess kind of more of the same. Um, but yeah, like talk to me about the time that you were dealing with your stress fractures. That sounds like a pretty big deal.
I mean, at the time it was because, yeah, I'd just gone full time and I was like, this is my job. What am I gonna do? So pretty stressful. I guess because I had gotten to that point where I was quite injured, and also I'm not. We know I'm older now and I'm wiser, but I'm not great at resting. I am now, wasn't then. And if I am not resting and uh, my head is like, so does this happen to you? You know how you have a crap training session, and so your head's like, well, because that was shit, you need to come in tomorrow and you need to do that again. All right. I don't know if that's everybody else, but that's me. So now when that voice happens, I my partner and I'm like, hey, this is okay, and I need to teach like 9 hours tomorrow, but I wanted to go in and train again. And he's like, no, that's silly. So I'm like, okay, cool. I just needed to voice it. Thank you. So voice it to people. If you're not sure if this is a silly idea, speak to someone. Like a friend, whoever, just be like, I've done this today and this training and I've got this much tomorrow. Should I do it again? And they'll be like, no, sleep. Like do anything else. um but yeah, so it's early. What was the original question? How did
Well, no, it's hard because I kind of was going into the whole mental clarity and the overall well-being and everything, but then I was talking about your stress fracture and dealing with that.
so because I had at that time I was quite overtraining. Once I got over like the sadness of it and oh my god, I need to pull out of a competition, my back is broken, I can't teach really, this is shit, all that general feeling. It was actually a license to rest, which then felt really nice because I was like, oh, they said I have to rest. Whatever.
Mm,
Well, let's go down naked in the backyard or something. Like, so
yeah.
it was a license to rest once I'd gotten over it, or not over it, I was still injured, but mentally it wasn't so bad. So I just rested, which was really nice. And I think about that sometimes now because, yeah, when I get a little bit antsy about like I should be training, that was a shit session yesterday, I should just go back in. I'm like, how do I access that part of my brain where I'm like, you have license to rest?
Wow.
Like, because it all happens sometimes where I'm like, man, I wish I could tap into that feeling because I'm not sure how to get there
Wow.
again. But yeah,
So cute.
just,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
once,
like you had permission.
yeah,
You finally had that
mm,
permission. There was something really, really wrong, and you had very clear, um, marching
yeah,
orders of what you were able to do, and in a way that was a little bit of an exhale for you.
yeah. So I wish I could take that feeling and allow myself to rest a bit more now. I do, but sometimes there's still a little bit of a feeling of guilt. You got to let that let it go.
Yeah, almost like if there was like that external thing forcing you to rest, then it's like, oh, okay, have permission to do it. So yeah, tapping back into that and finding out how you can find that permission for yourself, that's like a whole other, yeah, it's a whole other thing to think about.
Mm.
Definitely something to think on. I love that. Yeah, I kind of felt that way when I got pregnant and they grounded me from doing anything. I kind of was like, oh, darn, and oh man, I'm tired.
Yeah,
Like,
get
whoa, I've been trying to take this rest for 20 years, and someone finally said you got to do it now. And I was like, well, I guess that this would have made me do it. It was that outside force saying, and in some ways it was quite a relief. Yeah, I'm gonna, what I'm gonna be thinking about that for the next couple of weeks, Mischka. Now that we talked about that, is that permission, that
yeah.
license to rest, where that can be found. How can we provide that for ourselves in a healthy way?
Because yeah, I struggled to find it again. For you, it took like making a whole ass human. Like, why? Why are we like
I
this?
know. Finally, permission.
I know I'm so severely injured. I guess I can. Like, it's so silly. Why? Like, yeah. But I think a lot of pole dancers are like that because we always want to make our craft better, and yeah, just be better. And like I said, there's never ending better. You go back to the original tricks you learned, and you're like, oh, I can refine this and go into it like this. And so yeah, that's really exciting. But I think it's really important to do the work in your head to be like, you are allowed to rest, you dumb bitch. Like, stop training so much.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that reminds me of something that just came up when we were chatting, and it was a couple questions back, but it reminded me about this whole idea of when you're kind of mentally done or you've gotten to a wall mentally. I always challenge, I as much speaking to myself as I am when I'm speaking to my students when I tell them this, but um, I tell them often, well, what would it be like if you didn't have this anxiety about getting back to it, and just what if, or you're so worried that you don't have the drive, like what if you just laid back on it until something pulled you back in, like
Yeah.
what happened, like would you, here's my question to you, would you stay laying on that couch for forever, for 14 days, or would after 3 days you go, oh, I kind of feel like going to try that little transition that my brain, and like let it pull you. Find out what it is, the thing that like pulls you back in, because that'll tell you something.
Definitely.
People get so freaked out. They're like, oh, if I say I'm resting and I take 2 or 3 days, I will stay on that couch forever and I'll never get back up. But is that true? Have you actually tried that experiment? Because I
I mean,
challenge.
I really don't think you will. Like,
Yeah,
because
is like, I don't
we
think you can. Sorry. Like,
yeah, we want to move after a while, and that's if I ever go on holidays. My partner, different mindset to me, and he's like, I've never walked so much on holidays. Like, I love it, babe, but it's too much. Because I'm like, but we need to see things, and I think I'm quite hyperactive in my head, so I'm like, walking, let's go walking, because we're not polling, so we've got to do something. Like I think all pollers want to move. I mean, everyone wants to move, right? Like, you don't want to just, you're not gonna melt into the couch forever. So let yourself melt for 3 days. You're gonna get up. It's fine.
yeah.
The couch will go.
And what's like so interesting is like, now the experiment is like, what was the thought that brought you back, like what hooked you back in, because then that is telling you something also. Like if all of a sudden, like, oh, there's that weird heels thing I just saw that chick do, and I really, man, I really just want to mess around with that. Like it's, and it might be something totally different than what you had been working on for the last, you might have been in Trickland over and over and over, and all of a sudden, like, what is that draw? What is the inspiration that brings you back in? Because that's something to note.
I think it's like letting yourself, play. Like, I think that's one thing that's really cool about pole is that it's, you're just playing. It's just playtime. um, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Thinking when you're saying that, like, you know, like sometimes I have students that get really flat about, like, maybe they're not progressing, or they're, like, why am I rocking up? I kind of know this trick, but like I'm held back from the next level because I don't have this skill yet. And I'm like, just play with what you got, if you can, like explore with, instead of it just being a combo. Oh, it's this trick, this trick, this trick. How are you entering into it? And then how can you make that transition smoother? And how can you play with your exit? And, like, just if you can, just as much as possible, like, it's just playtime. We used to love playing when we're kids, and monkey bars or whatever it was that was your thing. Mine was monkey bars. I was such a silly kid. I remember distinctly this memory of, like, putting the bar in my tummy like a gymnast and like rocking. And I was like, oh, I'm do it. But I didn't realize who didn't realize this? There was a bar and a bar. So I flipped downwards and I headbutted the bottom bar.
Oh my gosh. And that was the beginning of Mischka's pole journey. The grace and athleticism we see on Mischka, and this is where it began.
It's multiple concussions. Fuck. Like,
Oh,
yeah, let yourself play. It's all just playtime. Like, it's, you're not sitting in the office, you're not doing your day job, you're here to
yeah.
play. play.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Andrea keeps saying hello to us on here. Hello, Andrea James Louis. We love you.
We were supposed to jam yesterday, but she was working with Steve. But it's cool. We'll jam.
Yes, well, let's see. Let me see if I have any other questions from you for you here. Um, let's see. Okay. Yeah, I think we covered it. What do you think is next for you? What's is it just yeah, what do you have on the horizon? What's going on for you next?
Yeah. Yeah. This is always a tricky one, and usually, like in the past, people have asked me, like, I don't know. Like I get very stressed, but now I'm like, whatever, it's fine. Um, so I still have a few more years of pole in me, a few more years of competing, and like hopefully many, many years of pole. Like teaching, I've realized evolves so much, and yeah, like I used to think, well, I can't be a high level instructor forever. My body just can't hack it. But it doesn't have to be dynamic high level. It can be flowy a high level, which is still a whole world of difficulty. So yeah, like I think I'll definitely pole for a long time, and probably delve a little bit more into online teaching as well. I mean, I'm already there quite a lot, but it's just, yeah, it's a really cool world, and I really like what's happening now. Like, I've created a bit more of a space where, like, people who do recordings, I say, like, if I know doing a recording, it doesn't feel as supportive. It doesn't feel the same as being in a live class. So send me clips. If I can give you feedback, then I absolutely will. And I think like that ball has started rolling a bit more, and people are reaching out with clips a bit more, which is really cool. Like, it just feels like a really sweet little community. So I want to teach for a long time, but I always say to my partner, if I don't have like some online sort of home studio situation going, or my own studio, then I will be either, I don't know why, I'll either be a train driver or a crane driver. I don't know. That's maybe my future.
You want to move big machinery.
Yeah.
There's something that wants big impact.
big, big.
Big impact somewhere. I love that.
I,
That's so random.
it's not just because they rhyme. It's like a part of me is kind of like, well, I guess it'd just be cool, but also like, it's, do I need to be that adult and have that adult job one day that pays relatively well? But that maybe it's time to be an adult when you're 45 and you're not polling anymore. But let's be real, I'll be like polling till I'm 72. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm hoping to. I mean,
Probably.
yeah, absolutely. You know what? Even if I can't hack it myself, like, there's so much you pick up from teaching it, you know what I mean? And from having your body, having done
Yeah.
it, that there's so much wisdom that you can still impart. And also, bringing back all those really important, foundational movements that, because to be honest with you, it's just, those of us who've just kind of played in pole like for a long time, like you and me, it's a lot of what we do personally is the innovation all comes out of what felt the most comfortable for us and how we played within those
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
sure we were always kind of pushing our limits, but there's also so much innovation and play that happened within what already felt really decent during our process. And I always like to try to remind new pullers of that as well, as how do you think all these styles were created? There was a little bit of path of least resistance. Sure, there was absolutely always trying to expand the repertoire, but also what can you do, like we were talking about before, within that.
And when you say, we've been teaching for a while, like I also think back to, obviously when I first started teaching, I was quite young, too young, but I think to now, and how, I think how the teaching has progressed, and how my experience like allows me to make many more students feel more at ease. Like when I first started teaching, like, I don't think I could make a student feel at ease, or handle a student that maybe starts frustrated crying because they're not getting this thing. Like, I feel like the older I get, the more I have a handle on all these little situations where I'm like, oh babe, we've been there before, don't worry about it. Like, please cry, get that shit out, like do it. But then, you know, we need to talk because it's not as serious as your head is making it out. Like, it's just the way like I can handle things now. I sometimes think like, oh, what will it be like when I'm in my 40s? It'll be even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I do want to keep teaching for quite a while, but yeah, like it's because there's such opportunity to keep learning and keep being better. But at some point, maybe a crane or train driver for sure.
I'm just gonna hold that. I'm gonna hold that. I'm just gonna keep watching for that. Years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, I'm gonna be watching your Insta and see when those cranes and trains start making their debut.
I'll do it with you, and I'll be like, well, you've got to lift up this box and you've got to put it over.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us so early in the morning, waking up and spending some time. It was like fun to have this time with you.
Yeah, it was really awesome. I am going to gym now. I feel awake. I feel invigorated. It's early. The birds are singing. Let's go do things.
Okay, but before you go and you head out, where can we find you? Where can we take your class?
Yeah, so if you head to my Instagram, it's Mischka Poledancer. If you get confused about the spelling, I always say it like this: Mischka, Mischka, Mischka Poledancer. And then, yeah, you can go to my link tree. There's Inters to Advanced classes, there's Advanced to Elite, there's workshops roughly every fortnight as well. So, yeah, you can keep an eye out. I'm always posting the shadow band life. So just keep an eye out for workshops if you're keen. And yeah, I'll see you online.
All right, wonderful, Mischka. Have a wonderful workout today, and we'll talk to you again soon.
It's lovely to meet you. Bye.
Bye. Mwah. Bye, everyone.